Thank you for joining us today on our 20-minute session on open source monitoring in SCOM here at SCOMAthon. In this session, we will discuss the benefits of monitoring open source workloads in SCOM and also share some of our experiences and work from the projects we are involved in. We also want to take the opportunity to share some of our exciting product updates that we have been working on recently. This session is not only designed to provide you with a brief overview of open source monitoring possibilities in SCOM, but also to give you some tips and tricks, regardless of your experience level. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. We hope you find this session informative and useful, and thanks for joining us today.
Before we begin, I would like to give a quick introduction. My name is Jonas Lentun, and I work as a business developer here at OpsLogix. And here with me today, I have my colleague, Vincent de Vries, responsible for our technical innovation. Both me and Vincent have more than 15 years of experience implementing and developing solutions for SCOM. So let's take a quick look at today's agenda. We're going to start with some updates from our side on the topics of VMware, Kubernetes, and Microsoft Teams. After that, we will move on to our main topic about open source monitoring in SCOM. First, a short background, and then some business benefits that we have collected from our helpful customers. We, of course, want to share some lessons learned from the field and give you some real-world examples. And we will finish off with a quick summary and then a Q&A. And now I would like to hand it over to Vincent, who's going to give us a brief update about our products.
All right, thank you, Jonas. So what have we been doing with the VMware MP? Well, we continue to invest in our SCOM MPs, so VMware is one of the MPs we've been investing in. And on the surface, it doesn't really look like we did too much to our VMware management pack. But basically, under the bonnet, we've been doing quite a lot, and especially to our collector. So first of all, we updated all the .NET components of our collector. And what does this entail? Well, now we can actually use parallel processing in the collector, and you can think of this as running multiple filters at the same time for filtering out information that we use in the management pack. We use a smaller footprint of the collector, or basically the collector has a smaller footprint in the environment. And in itself, it didn't have a very big footprint, but when you get to enterprise environments, which tend to scale, every MB and CPU cycle counts when you have a resource-intensive environment like SCOM. We also have a better maintainability of the code base, and we've done this so that we can implement feature requests more rapidly for customers if they would like something extra in the management pack. And we also implemented the latest VMware API, so that's up to date there as well, and it's also more efficient for all the operations it does. And in general, we made the changes to support VMware 8 in our management pack. So moving on, what's new in the Kubernetes MP? Well, first of all, we refactored the collector as well, just like we did with VMware, to run even higher workloads and just to be more efficient. We also implemented the latest Kubernetes client, so that's also has more efficiency there. And we also made sure that we support the latest version of Kubernetes, version 1.27. So those are a few of the investments we did in the Kubernetes MP, but we also, for the collector in the Kubernetes MP, we made it completely platform independent, or .NET independent, I should say. So what we did is we made it self-contained, so you don't need to take care of the .NET version you have installed on your Windows platform. And also for our Kubernetes MP, because it's a relatively new management pack for us, we did some general debugging and improvements on performance and scaling. All right, these are the updates I have. What about you, Jonas? I thought you had some updates on Squared Up and ChatGPT.
As you already might know, we have a couple of community dashboard packs for VMware and Ping at the moment, and we are now going to release also a community pack for the Kubernetes management pack that will be available for download soon. So when it comes to our SCOM connector from Microsoft Teams, our developers have been experimenting a lot recently, both within to integrate the popular ChatGPT integration and to be able to actually get an output from a SCOM alert in Teams to send it over to ChatGPT and to suggest a solution for the related alert. We also are doing some testing against the SCOM managed instance to make sure that you would have a more neat experience with the alerts instead of just sending emails. Now, let's get back to the main topic about open source monitoring in SCOM. The SCX core started as the Microsoft Operations Manager Unix Linux agent and is now used in other solutions, including Microsoft Operations Manager, Microsoft Azure, and Microsoft Azure Log Analytics. This means that for some workloads, the agent have both been responsible for communication with SCOM and Azure. Microsoft have now decided to use a completely different agent for Azure, named Azure Monitor Agent, AMA, and take note that the previous Azure Log Analytics agent will be retired on August 31st, 2024. When they decided to retire the Log Analytics agent for Linux, some people got concerned about the future for Unix Linux monitoring in SCOM, as it shares the AMA agent's codebase. The lack of support for newer distributions with OpenSSL 3 and the increased installation base with those requirements were growing, and luckily, early this year we saw a new release rolling out that's supporting OpenSSL 3. For us at OpsLogix, this was great news as we see an increase of the installation base for Linux and Unix agents in SCOM to help support the monitoring of Kubernetes clusters. To get more insights into the increased demand, we also had the pleasure to interview a couple of our valued customers to understand what challenges they were facing. This is a quick summary of the benefits with moving their Linux Unix monitoring to SCOM. Minimize the tools required for monitoring. Minimize the required knowledge and work with the monitoring tools. Reuse existing processes and integrations such as ServiceNow or Microsoft Teams, but also to put everything under one holistic umbrella. We also want to share some lessons learned and experience from the field from the projects that we are involved in. These are the key findings. Instead of using logins and passwords, we recommend using SSH keys instead, as they are considered more secure. In the examples found on the internet to show you how to configure your agent and the sudoers file, they recommend that you paste it in to the sudoers file directly. We recommend using the sudoers include to create a completely different file with all the configuration separately. To simplify and streamline the configuration and maintenance of the agents, we recommend, if possible, that you have the Linux machine domain joined to Active Directory. One thing that we also learned was that when we were working with the older distribution, we had to keep track on the supported cipher suits in Active Directory so the communication can get correctly set up. This session will be too short to go in depth into these different topics, but please visit our blog and we will post one separate article on each topic. As you might know, we do not only create products for Microsoft Operations Manager, we also have a division that works with consultancy, and we have a couple of examples during the last years that we have been involved with that we would like to share with you. So let's start with Rabbit message queuing. In this specific case, we were asked to monitor a mission-critical component for an application that was built using Rabbit message queuing. The application was delivered as a virtual appliance with no option to install an agent. With our years of experience working with APIs, we found all the necessary metrics that the customer was interested in through the API. One thing to keep in mind when working with workloads that is collected through one single point is to make use of cookdown functionality in SCOM. I think that the Kubernetes management pack is a great example on how to put open source monitoring inside of SCOM. Is there anything you would like to add here on this topic, Vincent?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Kubernetes monitoring is like monitoring a huge beast. There's so much to it. The thing we do with Kubernetes monitoring, which is our philosophy really, is that we want to monitor the Kubernetes infrastructure and not so much all the containers which run inside of Kubernetes. We do have an option to monitor the pods just to see if everything is running fine in there, but we do not have knowledge of the applications running in there. So we just want to see if the environment is running fine, or your Kubernetes environment, and if that's up and running, then you should monitor the applications which are running on top of Kubernetes in a different fashion, which can also probably be done in SCOM.
Yeah, making sure that the IT operations team has the necessary information to take action on it. Another exciting solution that we worked with together with one of our clients was to actually be able to monitor or discover Linux certificates in the same way that we have a solution for Windows servers today when we search into the personal store to find certificates that are invalid. This client wanted to have the same functionality to be able to find these certificates on their Linux machines. So together with the client, we developed a solution that targets the Unix Linux operating system and that goes through each and one of them to discover and monitor certificates on these type of devices. We have also been involved in a couple of large-scale Linux deployments when it comes to SCOM. And in these type of environments, there have been a couple of key things that has been always one thing that they want us to keep in mind. It's automation and security. The discovery and installation needs to be done with code, and the machine needs to be as secure as possible. We usually recommend to disable login using passwords and the usage of SSH keys instead. These keys are in most cases saved in a key vault that needs to be accessible from the SCOM environment if the installation or certificate signing is done from that side. We also promote the use of an automation solution like Ansible, Chef, Puppet to set up the permissions and prerequisites for the SCOM Linux agent. So this brings us to the end of this session. And to summarize the session, do you have anything, Vincent, that you would like to add?
Yeah, sure. So I think there are two big takeaways to take from this session. The first one is that Linux monitoring is becoming more popular in SCOM in a holistic way, so that you see your whole environment. And also you can see that in the newer Linux agents for SCOM and in the way that you actually secure them. Now, the second thing is one of the things which everybody knows about is ChatGPT, and which is also a buzzword in IT these days, but it is very helpful. You can see it in solving issues you might have in an environment, or when you're trying to script something, ChatGPT can do that for you. So that's why we really wanted to integrate it into our Teams connector for SCOM, so that you can solve issues in your environment very quickly and possibly have a very quick solution.
Thank you for joining this session, and hope that we will see you soon again. Thank you. All right, that brings us to the Q&A. Please ask any questions that you have into the chat, and we will respond them as good as we can. If there is anything that we can't answer right away, you can of course send an email to us, and we will answer as soon as possible.